What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. Listen, this is Married at First Sight season 14. I'm gonna just double it up. I'm giving you episodes 5 and 6 because y'all know I'm behind, but we're gonna get caught up. So let me go on and break it down. So we're gonna do this thing couple by couple, okay? So we can go on and get it on in. So let's, child, we're gonna start with, we ain't gonna start with them. Let's start with Elijah Wan and Katina because they're not as problematic. We'll do the problematic people last, okay? So, the biggest thing about Elijah Wan, sorry about that. The biggest thing about Elijah Wan is like a big baby who needs all of this attention, right? I don't know what this is about. He is like, I don't know where it comes from, but we wake up, it's day 2 of the honeymoon. You know, he still ain't learned how to cuddle. According to Katina, he still is not cuddling the way she need him to cuddle, okay? They end up going to the gym, and they're doing this whole thing where she's pushing him. I mean, he's pushing her to do these exercises, and he's, in my opinion, he's being like really harsh with her. Like he's acting like she paying him to work her out instead of him and his wife going to the gym, having a nice little workout, getting to know each other. Like, you don't know what kind of a person she is in the gym. You don't know if she's a gym rat or if she just goes in and does a little yoga class and go home. Like, you are really pushing her like y'all into a contest or something. And it was a little off-putting for me. And later on in the episode, we see him talking to the guys, talking about, yeah, I pushed her, you know, but it was a test because I wanted to see, you know, if she was going to quit, but she pushed back on me, and I don't want a meek person. I want somebody that's going to tell me you doing too much and bark at me a little bit like she passed the test. Can you stop testing your wife? Stop testing her. Later on, the next episode, they go horseback riding, and it's a little bit of the same thing. He is like really yelling at her and getting angry with her because she was scared to be on the horse, and he was like, "You just need to do, come on, stop, just go." The horse knows what he's doing, and again, I understood that you didn't want her to quit. I understood that you wanted her to enjoy the moment and live in the experience, but also when somebody tells you, "Listen, I'm scared," you gotta respect that. And she said that later on. She said, "Listen, I appreciate you wanting to push me out of my comfort zone, so I'll do something different. I get that. I respect, I appreciate that. But at the same time, you have to hear me. And until we kind of get to know each other better and you really understand what my boundaries are and you really understand that inflection in my voice and when I really am serious versus just, a little nervous, you gotta just, you gotta chill out a little bit." He ain't here, child. He ain't here. They on the boat. Now they had a boat trip where all the couples went. Now on the boat trip, while they were there, Katina ended up getting into it with Lindsay. We'll get back to that later. But Katina got into it with Lindsay because, well, I guess we'll get into it now. Because Lindsay really tried to make that whole situation with her and Elijah Wan. She really tried to play Karen and become the victim and act like, I was in an abusive relationship and it just was a trigger for me because he just got so aggressive with me and it was just a trigger. And Katina was like, "See, this is what we're not going to do. What we're not going to do is turn this into you are a victim. Like, you created that situation. Like she said, girl, you triggered yourself because you kept coming for him and you kept poking until he finally fought back." And Katina let Lindsay know about herself, child. She told Lindsay how to get there, where to go, and how to get there, honey. And of course, Lindsay will get to her child. But of course, Lindsay was playing victim. "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I can't believe you're talking to me like that. I can't believe you feel that way. I can't believe you said that to me. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness." And she was like, "Girl, I did." And so later on, her and Elijah Wan were at dinner. And even though, or lunch or whatever, and even though Elijah Wan had kind of told her, kind of stay out of it. Don't worry about it. We'll handle it. She was like, I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't let her just turn this into and make it seem like you had done something wrong or make it seem like it was your fault. Like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. And of course, he was loving that. He was turned on by that child. My wife was defending me. My wife had my back. Yes. On the way back, on the boat, on the way back, of course, they're playing Never Have I Ever. I think last year they played Never Have I Ever on the boat. So they played Never Have I Ever again. And, you know, of course, the questions were the same type of questions. Have you ever cheated? Have you done this? Have you done that? Blah, blah, blah. And Elijah says, I got one. Have any of you ever slept with a mother and a daughter? Who does that? And if you do it, who bragging about doing it? So not only does he let everybody on the boat know that he slept with a mother and a daughter, then he went on to talk about a threesome. And he proceeds to repeat multiple times that he'd be down for a threesome. Yeah, he'd be down for a threesome. Yeah, he'd be down for a threesome. Katina was like, well, that's not going to happen. No threesomes here, bro. Child, that was pretty much that with them. That was pretty much that, child. It wasn't too much more. See, I'm starting with the least problematic of the couples, and we're going to work our way up, child. We're going to work our way up. So let's go to Noi and Steve next. Now Noi and Steve, they're cute, okay. The biggest issue with the Noi and Steve, I think, is gonna be the job situation. We see them having breakfast that first morning, well, the second morning that they're there. We see them having breakfast, and he brings up how he wants to take her camping and this, and this, and she was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And he was like, well, I mean, she said, I like to get up and take showers. And he was like, well, there's some campgrounds that have showers. She was like, but all hotels do, so I don't want to camp. I don't want to go camping. I don't want to do it. So later on that day, they're out having lunch outside, and Noi realizes that she has really fallen really quickly for Steve, and she realizes that she loves him. And so she runs over and tells him, like in the middle of while she's doing her interview with with producers, she goes to tell him that she loves him. And I mean, he's here for it. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, that is so nice. But Noi gets irritated that he didn't say it back. And I'm like, but he doesn't love you yet. Like, y'all known each other for 3 days. And yes, y'all have been around each other for 24 hours. And yes, y'all technically are married. But if he don't feel it, he don't feel it. And I wouldn't want somebody to say it if they don't feel it. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want somebody to feel like they're obligated to say something that they're not ready to say. So later on, when he's talking to the guys, he's like, yo, like, I feel like she was waiting for me to say it back, and I'm just not ready for it. But again, don't say it if you don't mean it. Now, on the way back on the boat, when they played Never Have I Ever, Steve admitted to being a cheater, and of course, Noi looked at him side-eye when he said it, but then when they got back to the hotel, she admitted that she cheated, and they both realized that they were young, and both of them cheated because they were ready to get out of the relationship, but they didn't have the emotional maturity to be honest and say, listen, this ain't working for me. It's time for us to move on. Unlike last year where old boy act like she said she cheated, Rachel cheated, and it was going to be the end of the world. But anyway, so that was cool. We saw them go to the waterfall, and unlike Elijah Wan, Noi was out of her comfort zone as well. She didn't want to necessarily get in the water. I don't think she knows how to swim. But unlike Elijah Wan, Steve was very patient with Noi and, you know, was very, you know, let her take her baby steps. He said it bothered him a little bit that she didn't seem like she wanted to do things outside of her comfort zone, but she did do it. She did do it. Ultimately, really, again, it wasn't in these 2 episodes. It wasn't a whole lot. The job thing sort of came up, but that's gonna blow up even more. But the job thing situation sort of came up a little bit, and he was like, he does like, you know, he does like basically consulting work or whatever. So again, I'm gonna say this, and I feel like I'm gonna continue to say this. It's not that he's unemployable, and it's not that he can't get work, and it's not even that he doesn't work from time to time. He just doesn't have a regular 9 to 5. And I don't know how much he's making at these little like consulting type jobs, but if he's making enough money to pay the bills and take care of people, then I guess I'm just past that 9 to 5 situation if your bills are being paid and you living the way you want to live. Now, maybe they not, and I don't know. We don't have that much information, but, there's that. But that's, again, with them, they weren't as problematic, right? They weren't as problematic. Now, let's get to Jasmine and Mike. Now, we're starting to get into a little bit of the problem, okay? Now, Jasmine can't get it out her head that Mike's sisters told her that Mike is a quitter. Right, so I feel like, as a pessimist, right? So I feel like, unfortunately, she's kind of holding on to that. So they wake up the second day, and Mike makes a comment about, I feel like you've been a little distant. We had that little, disagreement last week, and I feel like, I said last week, yesterday. And I just feel like since we got back, since we got on the plane and came here, we just haven't connected like we should. We just haven't been connected. He was like, you think I'm overthinking it? And Jasmine was like, yeah, you absolutely are overthinking it. He said that he doesn't feel like they're connecting like they should be connecting, that their connection isn't fast enough. And Jasmine was like, bruh, it has been 48 hours, calm down. Like, we're good. Like, we're moving at a good pace. We're moving at a comfortable pace. Like, calm down. So they go to have drinks by the by the pool, and they're talking, and they sort of kind of have a conversation about pessimism and the glass being half full versus the glass being half empty, and it gets a little testy. You can tell it, again, Jasmine gets a little irritated. It gets a little testy. We find out later on that after they go out on the boat and have that great day on the boat, while they were talking on the boat, Mike, later on that we found out at dinner that Mike felt like Jasmine cut him off. Now, I'm going to say this. Mike and Jasmine do a good job of keeping stuff off camera, because we always find out after the fact that they had this argument, and Jasmine keeps saying his tone. I don't like the way he talks to me. I don't like his tone. So at dinner, she lets him know, like, I don't appreciate the way you talk to me. Like, I feel like you need to find a way to talk to me with respect. And he says, well, I feel like you cut me off. And she said, but I didn't. I don't feel like I did. Like, I didn't cut you off. Now, of course, production ran the footage back, and Jasmine did not cut Mike off. As a matter of fact, I don't even know how Mike felt like Jasmine cut him off, because he had full stop finished speaking. It wasn't even like a comma. It was a full period. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi before Jasmine said a word. But in his mind, she cut him off, and he wouldn't let go of the fact that she cut him off. So then, he wanted her to apologize. And she was like, I'm sorry if you felt like I cut you off. That's not an apology. That's not an apology. She said, but you want me to apologize for something I don't feel like I did. Like, you felt like I cut you off. I don't feel like I did. So now I'm saying I'm apologizing if you felt like what I did was cut you off, because I didn't. But I'm apologizing if that's how you felt, So she said, now you can't dictate to me how I'm going to apologize. You can't tell me how to apologize. So the next day, she's still feeling some kind of way about the situation. They went to the waterfall, and she's still, she's acting a little standoffish, giving one-word answers, that kind of thing. And he ends up telling her this story about when he was a kid being bullied by the bus driver, and it made her laugh, and I feel like it broke the ice a little bit. So they did eventually get in the water. Well, again, she didn't want to do it. It was out of her comfort zone. And he said, I'm actually surprised that she did it. And it's really the first time I've seen her smile since we've been here. Now, let me put a pause there a little bit. The other conversation they had when they were by the pool, he talked about all the loss and how at a young age he lost his father, then he lost a brother, then he lost his mother, then he lost his grandmother. And that's why he probably tends to see the world the glass half empty instead of half full, because he has dealt with a lot of loss and has kind of had to protect himself and kind of shield himself a little bit. When they were on the boat, Jasmine tried to talk to Lindsay and tried to explain to Lindsay why Katina felt the way she felt, and how, like, Lindsay, basically, girl, you a lot. Like, I like you and I think you are a good person, but you are a lot, and you might need to self-reflect a little bit. You need to man in the mirror type situation. Okay. That's pretty much what happened with that. Later, well, yeah, that's pretty much that with them. We'll get to child. When we get to Alyssa, then we'll get to that, child. All right, child. Mark and Lindsay, listen. So we wake up day 2. We find out that they have consummated their marriage. Your business. I don't care. And Mark is trying to talk to Lindsay about maybe not drinking so much, And I feel like what he's trying to say in a nice way is, girl, that whole situation on the plane is because you were drunk. And then you was drunk. We got here, you was drinking. And you didn't drink a lot. So maybe, maybe we don't need to drink so much. I mean, maybe we don't have to have all of the alcohol. And Lindsay's response to that was taking him to a cocktail making class where they learned how to make pina coladas. Not reading the room? I don't think so. She talked about her history. She's basically dated a lot of engineers. They were all losers. Her dad told her she needed to do something different, child, and find a different way of doing things. I told you that on the boat, she talked about how she was triggered by Olajuwon, but again, Katina shut that thing down. So later on that night, after they got back from the boat trip, Mark once again wants to talk to her about, because she told him about what happened on the boat. So he's telling her, listen, I think we might need to just scale back a little bit. Like, we've been moving like at the speed of a bullet since we got here. You had the incident on the plane, then you had the situation with Katina. Like, I just think we might need to pull back and chill out a little bit, with this whole situation. And, I feel where Lindsay's coming from, because Lindsay's like, wait a minute, what you talking about? Because she went on to talk about how they've been having sex, like rabbits. And he initiated it. And so what part do you want to pull back on? Like, you want to pull back on what? Because you don't seem like you want to pull back on the sex part of this. So what we pulling back on, bruh? What we adjusting here? And of course he was like, well, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just saying we need to pull back a little bit. I'm just saying we need to just slow it down. And she was like, well, what are you saying? I'm saying we need to slow it down a little bit. So she spazzes out. She has this, she gets up from the table, because they were outside and they were having like this nice romantic evening. And she was like, he done ruined it with this bull hockey. He done ruined our romantic evening. So she gets up and she walks off. They're in the room. They're arguing. But then we find out later on that they made up, because the next morning they are cuddled up in bed again, child. So what we also find out is while they're there, Mark's landlord is blowing his phone up. Yes, the same landlord that he invited to his wedding is blowing his phone up. She has changed his lease. I don't know if his lease was over, but whatever, she has raised his rent and then told him he can't have cats. Come to find out, he has had some sort of infestation of bed bugs in his apartment. Now listen, bed bugs can get in. bed bugs can get in a lot of different ways. He works at a gym. He may have bought those bed bugs, but somebody at the gym may have had bed bugs and it got into his stuff. So I'm not. Bed bugs travel, and it's easy to get bed bugs. It just is what it is. But when you find out you had bed bugs, though, Mark, like, was it before you packed up all the shit that you was gonna take to the new apartment? Because if you knew before you packed up, then none of that stuff should be going to the new apartment. But Lindsay, Lindsay is Mama Bear. She jumps in. She says, "Listen, we're gonna make this happen, okay? The cats are already at my house, so we don't have to worry about that. And you're just gonna take off work when we get back. You're just gonna take the day off work. We're gonna go ahead, go in that apartment. We're gonna do what we need to do. We're gonna get your stuff, and that's cool. And we know at least for the next month we got some place to live, and after that you just moving with me. Like, ain't nobody tripping." And Lindsay feels some kind of way about the landlord. Now, again, I feel like there might be more to this story with the landlord, because it does seem kind of weird that Mark felt close enough to this woman to invite her to the wedding, and then she would do something like this to him while he's on his honeymoon. I don't know, maybe more to the story, but neither here nor there. That's what we walk away from. Now, at the dinner, they do have a dinner like the night before they're leaving, where Alyssa is kind of talking to the table about what's going on with her and Chris, and Lindsay is sort of rolling her eyes, and Alyssa kind of says something to Lindsay, but Lindsay doesn't respond. So later on that night, Mark was like, "I really like the fact that you didn't respond when Alyssa said something to you and called your name. I could really appreciate that you didn't respond." He said, "See, that's what I'm talking about. Because when stuff happens to you, then it happens to me. Because we're a team. We're together." And I appreciate that. Because in his mind, that means she's learning, right? That means she's learning some restraint. But I don't know. I just feel like in that moment, she just ain't say nothing, child. But anyway, that is Mark and Lindsay. Okay. Child, let's get to this. Let's get to the crazy people. Alyssa and Chris, listen. At the end of the day, Alyssa doesn't want to be with Chris. Alyssa wants to go through this process. I do think that in the beginning, Alyssa wanted to be married. But I also feel like Alyssa was looking for a perfect man. I feel like Alyssa was looking for a man that was going to check all the marks. And the funny thing is, if he had been aesthetically what she wanted, but treated her like shit, I feel like she would still be in there. I feel like she would still be trying to make this work. But neither here nor there. They did go paddle boarding, where she sort of kind of was poking at him about not being able to stay up on the board, but it's whatever. They were talking after the paddle boarding, and she explained to her that her psychic told her exactly what her husband was going to look like, and it wasn't Chris. So I feel like, on top of the fact that she's not attracted to Chris, it ain't who her psychic, who she clearly has a lot of faith in, it's not who her psychic said she was going to marry. So, when they went on the island trip, I can't even read my own handwriting. When they went on the island trip, though, we saw Chris talking to the other fellas. Alyssa really didn't do a whole lot of talking, but again, it's just not working. The next day, Chris wants to go scuba diving. And Alyssa's like, "I don't want to go. I'll watch you, but I don't want to go." And she was like, "This is the first time I've seen my husband without a shirt on." I don't think she said my husband, but I seen him without a shirt on. So, of course, that didn't help the fact that she's already not attracted to him. He doesn't have a six-pack and all of that. So she's sitting and eating a salad. And I was wondering what, set her off, because she seemed like she was okay when he first went to go scuba dive. But then we saw her and she was, upset. We saw her, really upset. And she said she had talked to her mom. And she told her mom about what was going on. And her mom told her that her mother told her, "Girl, you're not trying hard enough, and you are being the brat that I know you are. And you probably are coming off on camera really badly. You need to give it a try. You need to try harder." And so she's upset at her mother And Chris starts walking through the lobby, and she's like, I don't want him to come over here. Tell him don't touch me. Tell him don't come over here. I don't want him to speak to me. And she is literally crying. And she's telling production that she's miserable. And they were like, well, what are you happy? Like, what will make you happy? Leaving here? And I think she meant like seeing more of Puerto Rico. And I don't mean she meant leaving Puerto Rico. But she has like a total meltdown and told production, do not let him come and sit next to her. Okay. So then, the next day, the experts have been monitoring the situation, so they have them go play tennis. Now, this is how you know that Alyssa was not interested in really playing tennis, because the girl had on flip-flops, okay? Even though she was still kicking Chris's butt, but in flip-flops. So I'm like, you really wasn't here to play no damn tennis, because who plays tennis in flip-flops, okay? Moving on. So after they're playing tennis, they start having a conversation about the apartment. And basically, Alyssa wants Chris to say, well, I'm not going to move in the apartment. You can move in the apartment. I'll stay in my apartment. And that's not what Chris said. Chris was like, well, she said, well, I really would love to move in the apartment, you know, because I want to be around the girls. I like spending time with them, and I really want that experience. Chris was like, okay, cool. I mean, you can move in with me. Well, I don't feel comfortable with that. He was like, I understand you don't feel comfortable, but I'm going to move in the apartment. And the minute he said that, even after she was trying to basically get him to say he wouldn't do it, she flips out. She totally flips out. She is upset. She is angry. She is like, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. He was like, nah, I got it. But he was like, listen, I want this experience as well. Like, I didn't come here to meet friends and hang out with people. I came here to find my wife and be with my wife. And so I'm interested in moving the apartment so that me and you can spend time together and get to know each other. I'm not interested in moving the apartment to hang out with the fellas. Like, I don't need to move in the apartment for that. And so then we see her talking to production, and she is again having this whole meltdown, and she's upset. Well, I don't think it's fair. Why can't I move in the apartment? Why don't I get to live in the apartment? It's not fair. I want to, the only time I'm really happy is when I'm spending time with the other ladies, and I don't understand why I can't do that. Why can't I? And again, it's not that you can't. You just got to deal with Chris. Like, you can move in the apartment, but Chris gonna be in the apartment with you. Like, that's the part you don't want to deal with. And so she is having like a whole meltdown. And Chris is over on the tennis courts talking to one of the other producers. And they're talking about real estate. Like, they're pointing at the picture, at the buildings. And she's like, see, look at him. Look at how aggressive he is. Look at his aggressive hand gestures. The producer was like, girl, he's talking about buildings. It's just aggressive. Oh, I hate him. I just hate him. Oh my gosh. He disgusts me. Because he won't tell you that you can have the apartment all to yourself. Like, girl. So production basically tells her, well, listen, you need to make up your mind. Like, I'm going to need you need to make up your mind. Like, and she said, well, I need to think about it. They said, well, you don't have much time because we leaving tomorrow and y'all are moving in the apartment. So you need to figure it out. Like, so let's get it together. And they were like, this is married at first sight, not married and single. Like, you got this all screwed up. And again, she is like, crying and upset. And so then we see Chris call his sister, and Chris basically tells his sister what's going on and how he doesn't think that she's interested in him and she's not attracted to him and she's not really giving the process a chance. And the sister was like, cut bait and go home, bro. And the sister said, she probably needs somebody like you in her life. Like, you're probably the best thing to happen to her. And he said, well, that's exactly what her mother says. Like, her mom told me, she likes to cry a lot. She gets real dramatic. She runs off. And she needs somebody like me that's going to help ground her. He said, that's what her mom said. And she was like, yeah, I don't know, bro. Like, this not a good look. So then we see her talking to the ladies about her talking to Jasmine and Katina about it, and Chris talking to Lindsay and Mark. And basically when she's trying to talk to Katina and Jasmine, now Jasmine don't be saying nothing. I noticed that Jasmine don't have a whole lot to say. She don't input a whole lot. But Katina was like, "Girl, I hear what you're saying, but maybe you know, like give it a chance, like give it a real honest, good old college try." And Alyssa said it in a very nice way, but basically what Alyssa said was, "I hear what you're saying, but no, I'm not. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not trying harder. I'm not making any different effort. I'm not doing it." And of course, Chris is talking to Lindsay and Mark, and that's why Lindsay has such an attitude later on that night when they're at dinner, because Lindsay has heard Chris's side of the story, and Lindsay feels for Chris because Lindsay thinks Chris is a really nice guy and that he's getting the short end of the stick. So later on that night, they're at dinner and they're having, like, you know, the group dinner like the night before we leave type situation. And basically Chris puts Alyssa on the spot because Alyssa says, "Well, you know, we decided that we're going to split the time at the apartment. You know, I'll stay the first month or the first 2 weeks, and then he'll stay the second 2 weeks." Chris was like, "Yeah, no, I didn't agree to that. He said, "I signed up to be in this process. I signed up to be married, to meet the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I didn't sign up to split an apartment with and split time. Like, that's not what I signed up for." And baby, the minute he said that, Alyssa was pissed, right? So he basically tries to put Alyssa on the spot and gets her to say whether she's all in or all out. And he said, "Listen, if you tell me you are 1% in, then I'm 100% in. Like, I am trying." And Alyssa wouldn't do it. She was like, "I'm not going to commit. I'm not going to say one way or the other. Like, that's not a conversation that I want to have on camera. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it in front of the table, in front of everybody, and I'm not going to do it on camera." And Jasmine and Katina both were like, "You got to respect that. Like, if she's saying she doesn't want to do it in front of everybody, you got to respect that." And Chris kept trying to push it. And one hand, I understand why he was pushing it, but it was a bit much, Chris. At a certain point, it was like, let it go. But I understand why he was pushing it, because like he said, she barely talks to me on camera. She damn sure don't talk to me off camera. So I was trying to get an answer. Even though I knew what the answer was, I was trying to get her to say it out loud in front of everybody and in front of production. And I feel like that was his way of covering his ass, to say, "Listen, it wasn't me. I did everything that I was supposed to do. It was her." Elijah Wan and Mark are like, "Damn, like, this man is really trying," and she's not even willing to meet him halfway. So after dinner, they're talking one-on-one, and again, he's like, "Okay, fine. It's just me and you. We're away from the group. I need you to tell me what's up. Are you all in on this? Are you trying? Are you 1% in? Is your pinky toe in?" And she still won't have the conversation because she doesn't want to have it on camera. She doesn't want to have the conversation on camera. And Chris is like, "Listen, that's not good enough for me, because at the end of the day, I need an answer. I need to know." So production is like, "Chris, let it go. Like, just give her some time. She says she needs some time. Just let it go." Child. And that's pretty much it. Honey, I'm sick of her. I'm so sick of Alyssa crying, talking about she's a good person. If I had a penny for every time this woman just says she a good person, I probably have me a good $1 by now. And that might not be a lot, but think of how many pennies go into $1. Okay? Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.